the Jussie Smollett situation, it's just gone. Obviously, now we have an arrest, we have charges, these sorts of things. This has gone from speculation to obviously actual charges. Just a really intense situation across the board.
So the latest update this morning is that Jussie Smollett has actually turned himself into Chicago police, and we're actually awaiting a press conference to get details on the investigation. That's supposed to happen around 9 a.m. this morning. But I think everyone is just having these conversations around the water cooler, around their dinner table with their family members. Like, how insane is this? Like, we have to point out that he hasn't been convicted of anything. These are only charges. But, I mean, if it is true that he came out and lied about this story, fabricated, this is wild.
It really is. I mean, the story's, like you said, ever evolving. We're going to find out a lot more today, I think. I tend to always believe the victim. I feel like, especially as a woman, when a woman is raped specifically, and this is obviously a different case, but it's still victim blaming. When a woman is raped, people often say, oh, is it true? Is it true? And people start speculating. So I think that you should just believe the victim in this case, or not in this case specifically, but in general, I tend to believe the victim. I don't ever want to be the person that's saying, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is true.
I see what you're saying. You're saying that, like, I think our instincts are to believe when someone comes forward. And I think that's a good thing. And that's what makes this situation so bad, if it turns out that this is all true, that he faked this whole thing, is that this really is a setback for movements of the LGBT community and the African American community. The black community has been fighting against this for hundreds of years, of course, since and going after slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, all through the lynchings, all sorts of things. The LGBT community a little bit more recently, but through the 50s and 60s, you know, assaults, murders against people in the LGBT community. I had a chance last year to sit down with the parents of Matthew Shepard, who was the teen in Wyoming who was brutally murdered in a hate crime, which wasn't officially a federal hate crime at the time. His parents flew back and they were there when he passed away, and they had to endure that. And for 20 years, they have fought with two presidents to fight for federal laws against hate crimes. And they finally, President Obama signed about 15 years after the death of Matthew Shepard, not only the Matthew Shepard hate crime law, but also the James Byrd Jr. hate crime law. They were put together. James Byrd Jr. was an African-American man who was dragged behind a pickup truck in 1998 for 3 miles and killed. All I'm trying to get at is that when you have these real life situations of people being bullied, crimes against LGBT people are on the rise. The most common hate crime is a racially motivated hate crime. We're trying to have honest discussions about what's happening. And for one night when we were all rallying behind Jussie, including politicians, even President Trump said, this is horrible, this is as bad as it can be. This is a major setback and a major impetus for people to come forward and be able to share their stories and have true conversations.
Yeah, and I think that's the initial shock that everyone is getting, because this is really happening to real people. You just named several examples from the black community as well as the LGBT community, which I think is why it's so shocking. Krista, what do you think about this situation? Do you think that if this is true, where does this leave us as a society?
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing has just been a roller coaster of emotions. Just all the facts coming out, the twists and turns in the story. I mean, for me, just watching, it's a roller coaster of emotion on top of just a roller coaster of everything coming out, the truth coming out, you know? So it's so hard for me to swallow and watch this. And I honestly, it just makes me sad. There's so much negativity in our country right now. And this is a story that is out and everyone's talking about. And it just brings us down even more, and all we need to be is lifted. You know?
So we'll stay tuned on developments specifically for, you know, his case, but I think it's also shed some light on some other things that we're talking about with our society. You know, this information came out so quick, and it's been changing so fast.
3 weeks.
Every day, it seems like there's a new development.
Questions.
And I feel like this kind of also brings up an issue of how we cover news in our community.
That's a good point,
You know, we're looking for this info right now, immediacy, give it to us right now, when the full story isn't even out yet.
I know.
But with this story, we are seeing updates, like, I feel like quicker than we've seen with other stories. So
that's
I do
true
have to say,
which is frustrating.
Right,
Like, are we getting more updates? Is this being covered? Is this being solved aggressively by Chicago Police Department because a celebrity is involved and it's a high-profile case?
I gotta say, I don't know how you guys reacted, but when the news started coming out that it looked like this may have been staged, I, as a member of the LGBT community, I'm just angry. It really makes me angry because, like you've said, and we've said, so many people are going through real situations of violence,
People
of
have
bullying.
fought and marched and died, literally, for us to have rights that protect us and to abuse those rights, to abuse those laws, which is what you do when you fabricate a story like that. It's taking it all for granted.
Look,
and you're, sorry,
no,
John,
go ahead. I was just going to say that, look, as Jussie Smollett, he grew up in a situation, he was a childhood actor and star. He's had a lot of fortune opportunities. That doesn't negate that he grew up in America as a black, Jewish, gay man, and that provides a lot of, instability, often problems, and there might be some legitimate grievances that he's had in the past that maybe that he needs to flush out or whatever that might be. Intersectionality is a real difficult thing to grow up in when you're crossing a lot of different minority groups. But as someone who is in the spotlight, as someone who is privileged and had the opportunity
you have a platform.
You have a platform, and it is your responsibility, no matter how small that platform is. I love it. Anytime I can come here on the Jam or on anywhere else, I get to have a chance to speak to people about what it's like to be gay in America and to share the honest truth and the honest stories and talk about the difficulties.
It's a duty.
It is a duty.
It's a responsibility that you didn't carry that torch.
Yes.
And that's the hardest thing with it too, is that he's taking that responsibility that he has and that platform that he has, and he's basically saying, if this is true, he's saying the attention that I'm getting from this, or whatever his motivation is that comes out, is more important than future victims of hate crimes to be taken seriously.
So true.
And that's the thing that breaks my heart in all of this.
Yeah.
You guys brought up an interesting point, Carly, and you started off by talking about sexual assault and rape allegations.
Yeah.
This is something bigger than being gay or being black in America.
Or any one thing.
It is. We're in a point now where we're trying our best to have honest discourse and to believe victims and take them for their word. And you, Jussie Smollett, if this comes out as completely true and he's found guilty, has just moved the entire debate back 5, 10, 15 years. A lot of people have treaded a real long, tough road to get to where we are today. And we still have a long way to go. That's the thing. This hasn't all been solved. We still have to have years and years of these discussions. Cultural changes take time, and this is just a huge brake light on the whole thing.
But I think you're right. I think it's up to all of us as a society not to let this, to try to fight this from setting us back. You said that you want to believe victims and that, it's like someone kind of took that trust. That's what it was, for granted.
That's what it is.
But it's not the fact that you believe this person. You didn't do anything wrong. It's the fact that someone potentially could have lied about this.
I just don't want any person in the future who is a victim of a crime to be called, oh, are you the next Jussie Smollett? Are you doing a Jussie Smollett? I just want people to be believed if this actually happens to them.
Yeah, it's
like
a good.
John said, he's setting us back.
I think y'all bringing up great points. I think the ultimate thing here is I hope we can all take a step back. Look, there's going to be people that now, and usually they fall on the political right, or and especially since Jussie in his comments brought in the MAGA hats and stuff like this. This is going to get political.
That's another side of it, because just because you are a Trump supporter or because you believe that a wall should be built on the U.S.-Mexico border doesn't make you a criminal. Like, that's just a difference in political belief. So I can see offense from that side as well.
I agree, and if I was a Trump supporter, I would be angry at this too, of course. I mean, as someone that, you attacked, you tried to lump us into this whole group. And if we are trying to have honest discussions moving forward, this needs to be across aisles, this needs to be across religious differences, this needs to be across racial, sexual identity differences, and hopefully, I mean, I always am just praying for teaching moments to come out of this, and a moment for everyone on the left and the right to go, whoa. Where have we gone as a country now where someone feels like this is going to get them the attention that they need if this is what has happened, to get the attention they need to move forward in their career? Why don't we all just say, look, this is bad. This is not okay. It doesn't matter if you're left, if you're right, but that there are real things happening, and let's talk about that.
Krista, I want to ask you, if this does come out to be true, again, these are only charges, do you think that he has a possibility for a comeback? Do you think that he should still be allowed to act on Empire? Should he lose his job? What should be the implications?
For me, no, I don't think so. He took his platform and totally used it for the wrong things. I can't picture him sitting there deciding how to do this if it's all true, if that's what he decided to do. Watching his GMA interviews and his interviews on ABC, retelling the story, I mean, like, how do you put on that performance?
He's toxic now.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone could watch him then in these future shows and think, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's that character
they already
we knew
cut
and loved.
They already cut down what they were going to film this week on Empire. So
Really?
yeah, the only way I can see this becoming, you know, an acting role is for someone else playing him in a future film.
I think at the end of the day, I hope he doesn't drag. If this is true and he knows it to be true, I hope he speaks this truth, pleads guilty, and accepts the punishment
Yeah.
that is going
He's
to
gotta
happen
get
to
real
him.
honest
And
here.
he's got to get honest, and maybe, just maybe, he can find a way to sort of bridge the divide, admit what he did wrong, if he did do it wrong, and say, look, this was horrendous. I made a mistake.
You're right.
I think then we can find some forgiveness, maybe,
That's it.
and
Sure.
hopefully maybe that's where we find the common
Right now,
ground.
he has an
Absolutely.
opportunity, and if he takes that opportunity and uses his platform and switches everything around, I think he has
Reduce
a
the
small
damage.
chance.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
Okay.
I don't want to
Something
say
we'll continue to
we could
follow.
talk about
done,
this.
but